Men are told like anger is acceptable, joy is acceptable. And that those are the only two. Don't feel sad, don't feel hurt, don't feel lonely, don't feel fear. But the message of anger is there is a problem. Anger is our power up emotion that helps us try to move forward to solve the problem. Anger is trying to get us to become who we want to be. It is trying to say, hey, this is a behavior that is something is happening here that you need to shift. It's trying to help you shift and not stay stuck. I look at people like Mother Teresa. That woman was fueled by anger. She saw what was happening in the world. And she said, I'm going to change this. Anger motivated her.
Welcome to the Dad Nation podcast, the place where high-performing men are empowered to reclaim their home, their health, and their happiness while enhancing their career success. You see, in a world full of noise, burnout, and mediocrity, we believe what's missing is courageous and compassionate leadership in the home, because when the dad gets better, the whole family wins. You see, this isn't just a podcast. It's a movement for men who refuse to settle for less in their families, in their focus, and their future. We are curse breakers and we are legacy makers. I am your host, Mitchell Osmond, and I'm honored that you've chosen to invest your most valuable asset, which is your time, with me today. Now let's get into it. All right, welcome back to the Dad Nation podcast. Brother, I'm glad you were listening in today from wherever you are listening in. I had a conversation with someone from Zimbabwe the other day who was a listener. So, hey, if you're in Canada, all the way to Zimbabwe, I'm glad you're listening. And today, you're going to love this episode because today I'm talking with Tera Wages. She's an entrepreneur, a speaker, and a co-creator of the Connection Codes framework. She's the host of the I Get It podcast and the Connection Codes podcast, where she unpacks the real, messy, beautiful work of emotional connection in marriage and parenting and leadership. And after building a business and traveling to over 30 countries with her husband, Tera stepped into family life and quickly discovered what many of us do, that success in the world doesn't automatically translate to connection at home. So over the past 16 years of marriage and raising 4 kids, she's become a leading voice in helping couples, families, and even corporate teams eliminate miscommunication and build deeper emotional safety. Her work bridges the gap between strength and vulnerability, showing that emotional intelligence isn't soft, it's foundational. Tera, welcome to the Dad Nation podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's a joy to be here.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about this. I mean, as we were chatting it up before I hit record, the emotions piece is tricky with men. I talk a lot about it on the show because so many men wrestle with not just understanding their emotions, but communicating their emotions. And I'll often say, even if you did understand your emotions and did want to communicate them, you were raised in a culture that said, stuff it, deal with it. Boys don't cry, right? And so even if they did want to talk about it, they would feel that pressure not to, right? So we're going to get into that today. But Tera, tell me a little bit more about your story, just like Cole's notes real quick. Like what sparked the fire for you to want to get into this work? Like, did you grow up as a kid just being like, I want to be an expert in, vulnerability and emotional control? Like, what was that story for you?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I did not grow up thinking that, actually. I started my professional career as a wedding photographer, and I loved shooting weddings because I loved couples. I loved love, as cheesy as that is. And early on in that career, I had couples coming to me because I was an open book. That was back in the blogging days. So I would blog the conflicts that my husband and I were having and how we were trying to navigate marriage ourselves. And so couples kept coming and asking me for help or advice. And so I just always loved relationship. And it was not until 2020, my own relationship began to crumble. Life happens to people. The first 5 years, we were high as a kite. Nothing could go wrong. Newlywed status for the whole first 5 years. We started having babies. And my husband started grieving a loss. Like he experienced a really deep loss that affected him tremendously. And I didn't realize at the time how to help him, how to support him. And I was unknowingly adding more pain to him because he didn't know how to communicate with me what he was experiencing. So we spent several years disconnected from each other, just trying to keep our head above water, doing the day-to-day grind. And then we eventually, around 2016, I was like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I want out. I want a divorce. And luckily, he stepped up at that point in a big way and was like, no, we're going to therapy. He would push me out the door, drug me to therapy. And therapy, I say therapy like it helped us a lot. He broke his leg a few months later, and I say him breaking his leg is actually what saved our marriage. But shortly after that, we were invited to join a Zoom call with a marriage and family therapist, Dr. Glenn Hill and his wife, Phyllis, where they were teaching their framework. It was called the Connection Codes. And it was COVID, so we had nothing else to do. So I reluctantly agreed to go. And it was transformational. Learning how to share, learning how to communicate with each other changed our lives. I'll share our tool here in just a little bit. But the first time my husband shared with me and could communicate what was happening in his body, I was like, this is different. I will dedicate my life to helping other men and women and couples communicate with each other in this way. And so that's what got me where I am. I'm now the CEO partner in the and helping reach more people.
Wow. I love that. And would love to dig into that exercise, that framework in a little bit here.
Yes.
Anyways, let's jump into this because Connection Coach teaches emotional intelligence and communication. Now, many men, especially dads, were raised up with this man up kind of message, right?
Yeah.
You alluded to that, your husband struggling with some of that. How can a father develop emotional connection without feeling like he's losing his strength or authority or masculinity? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I would start first by separating what we think emotions are for men. We often associate behavior with emotion. And so if you see someone crying, well, that's what sadness is. That's what we assume. We're picturing a behavior tied to an emotion. So even anger, if we see someone yelling, we're like, well, they're angry. We just label that. And we, as men and as women also, are all taught, don't be emotional. Man up, woman up, like put on your big girl pants is what I was always told, and get through it. But the truth is that emotions themselves, it's just a reaction. It's a chemical reaction it's something firing in your brain. And so when we can actually view them for what they are, it changes our relationship to them. And so the second thing that we teach is that emotions happen to us. We don't choose when an emotion fires or what emotion fires. And so we're all spending so much energy in our day trying to not have emotions or stuff our emotions or not acknowledge them, but they are going to fire whether we realize it or not. We get to choose what we do with it. And so we're expending so much energy, it's affecting our health, it's affecting our relationship, and because what we were taught about emotions was wrong. And then the last thing I will add there is that we talk about emotions and teach what their purpose is. Emotions are simply signals. They are messengers. I relate them a lot to the dashboard on our car. When a light comes on, it's like, hey, you need to change your oil. That's a signal to us of what we need to do next. Emotions are simply our dashboard signals trying to tell us what we need to do next. They serve a purpose.
Yeah, I love that. I'll often say that, because a lot of guys wrestle, a lot of the clients that I've worked with wrestle with anger or irritability or frustration, just different things. And I'll often say, man, anger is just a neurochemical soup. Like it's data, right? It doesn't have to control you. It's it's information, and you get to decide what you want to do with that data. You get to decide what you want to do with that information. Or as you would say, it's a signal. It's
Yeah.
and I wouldn't even say a warning, because a warning has a negative connotation. It's
Right.
just a, hey, ding, 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 this is what's up, right? And so it's like, it doesn't have to control you, but we don't necessarily understand. It's like we're blind to the engine light that comes on, and it's like, boom, the engine's blowing up, and you're like, what? Well, how did that happen? So I
Yeah.
love it. I got a bunch
Yes.
of other questions for you, but let's jump into this exercise, this framework that you were talking about.
Well, can I share about the anger piece really quick?
Please.
Knowing that that is an emotion that men are often kind of given permission to feel. Men are told like anger is acceptable, joy is acceptable, and that those are the only two. Don't feel sad, don't feel hurt, don't feel lonely, don't feel fear. But anger is, first of all, it's my favorite emotion. I love anger so much. Like it brings me joy even thinking
Mm,
about it. Because the message of anger is there is a problem. Anger is our power up emotion that helps us try to move forward to solve the problem. So it's simply saying there's a problem that needs to be solved. Here's
mhm,
what's tricky about anger that separates it and it makes it different from the other emotions that we'll talk about today. Anger can be both primary emotion, but it can also be secondary. So, what we see as anger oftentimes is masking another emotion underneath it. So, for me, I found that when I find myself reacting in anger, it's actually typically based in shame or fear. Those are my two emotions that trigger anger the most. And for years, I'm just trying to resolve the anger. Stop yelling. Stop yelling at your kids. Stop being angry. But I was never addressing the emotion underneath it, the fear or
mm,
the shame, because I couldn't identify it.
mm,
And I can identify the fear and the shame. I can actually process that, and it helps me to not move into that anger. But there are times I need to move into the anger, but I'm not doing it from a reactive place anymore.
mm.
I'm now letting the anger motivate me to experience change that I need to experience. Where for my husband, guilt was his emotion that sends him to anger most quickly and most often, where it's a more of a reactive anger. And so we tend to only look at that surface anger and we don't go deeper. And
Mhm.
going deeper is actually what gives us the tools to shift our behavior and create that change that we want to. So I love talking about anger because anger is trying to get us to become who we want to be. It is trying to say, hey, this is a behavior that is something is happening here that you need to shift. It's trying to help you shift and not stay stuck. But we often get in a cycle because we don't know what to do with it.
Wow. I love that. Anger is trying to get us to be who we want to be. Is that what you said?
Yes. Yeah.
I
At
love
least
that.
that's yes. Yeah. Like I look at people like Mother Teresa. She was patient and calm and like doing the work. That woman was fueled by anger. She saw what was happening in the world and she said, I'm going to change this. Anger motivated her. I was actually coaching someone recently. We run a program called the School of Connection, and we had a guy coming through. He was an EMT, and he was like, he was processing with me that he struggled that I loved anger so much because he was taught not to feel anger at all. And he was like, I don't identify anger. And I would talk to him and I was like, I said his name. And then I said, anger motivates you every single day. Your job is driven by anger. Every time you get to a site or a crash site or something that is happening, anger is what's fueling your body to take action and to move forward. It is what is firing to say that anger isn't yelling. It isn't throwing chairs. It isn't tossing our phone or reacting. That's behavior. We have to separate the two.
Mm. So good. It's a great nuance for sure, and it's a great reframe, for a lot of us who were raised that way. Because let's be real, a lot of us were.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
well, let's jump into the connection codes and
Yes.
hey, brother, let me ask you something, and I want you to really think about this. Are you winning at work, but quietly kind of losing ground at home? Maybe you're the guy people rely on. You stay calm in meetings. You carry that pressure all day, and you kind of wear that like a badge of honor. But maybe when you walk through the front door at home, your wife feels distant. Conversations feel shorter. And instead of being excited to come home, maybe work feels easier. Nothing is broken, but something is slowly drifting. And if you're telling yourself right now, I'm going to fix this when things slow down, or I'm going to fix this when things get easier, if you're honest with yourself, you already know they won't slow down. They won't get easier. Well, the high performance husband is for men who are done coasting. It's for men who want to win at home like they win at work. You see, this isn't therapy. It's not about fixing your wife. It's not for men who want quick hacks. It's for men who want to be calm under pressure, strong in their body, clear in their thinking, and to become the man that your wife and kids look up to with pride. So if you're listening to this and you know that what got you here won't get you where you want to go, I want you to go to dadnationco.com/accelerator or click the link in the show notes below, and then you can apply to join this accelerator and join myself and many other like-minded men who are leveling up in their home, in their health, and their happiness. They're winning all year long. It's a 12-month mentorship. It's going to change your life. All right, now let's jump back into the episode.
So the connection codes was, again, created by Dr. Glenn and Phyllis Hill from their own painful marriage. They realized that underneath every conflict they had, there was an emotion that was firing, that was leading to the conflict. So when they actually paused to get curious about what was happening inside of them and communicate that, everything started to shift. And so they created this framework, and our main tool that we use is called the Core Emotion Wheel. And it is a simple tool which we can give your audience where they can download it. Do you have a link in the show notes where people can get it? Okay, perfect. So go to the link in the show notes. I think it'll be connectioncodes.co/dad-nation. And it's a simple tool that helps retrain your brain how to identify the emotions that are firing. Because like we've mentioned earlier, we were taught as kids to suppress, ignore those emotions. And so they're still firing. We're just not in tune with what is happening. So this tool helps us every day to touch those emotions and communicate them. And so it's a simple core emotion wheel that has the 8 core emotions on it. Anger, shame, guilt, fear, lonely, sad, hurt, and joy. And so each day, like the first time we ever did this tool together, my husband sat down and he was sharing his emotions, and it's a 2-minute exercise. So you say 1 to 2 sentences about each emotion, and that's it. We want it to be quick. We want it to be very simple for you just to know what's happening with the other person you're talking to, your partner, your teammate, whoever. And he got to sad, and he shared his sad with me, and I was shocked. I had no idea that this was firing in his body. And he didn't even realize it either. Like, he knew he felt tension. He knew he felt off. He was brittle. He was responding more in anger. And it wasn't until he actually got to the sad of what he was experiencing that he could reconnect to himself, and I could hold that space for him. It felt like the first time I was seeing him truly. And so being able to actually go through each emotion, share a recent time you felt that emotion. If it's not a recent time, you can share a big time, but it retrains my brain. So then I know what shame feels like at 11:25 on a Friday morning. I can feel the shame, acknowledge it, process it quickly so it doesn't stay stuck in my body, so it doesn't lead to anger later on tonight whenever my kid does something that triggers me. And I'm able to move very, very quickly through the emotions and not stay stuck and brittle.
Wow. That sounds, I mean, I'm downloading it. I'm going to try that with my wife. Could you, just because we're like, I want the guys to take away as much as possible. And yes, we're going to put the link to this wheel in the show notes. If you're listening, please download it, try it out with me in your home. But could you tell me, I mean, obviously you're coaching this, so talk to me a little bit about like a common scenario. Give me like a mock example of what that conversation could look like so that they know how to lead their wives in it when they try it out.
Yeah, that's great. So we always invite people into an experience with us. That's really important. We don't force anybody. We don't make anybody. Everyone has their own right of refusal, but we share our joy in that. Like I would have joy in sharing this with you, and then we sit down together. And again, the goal is for it to be 2 minutes per person. And
Okay.
so, therefore, each person has the opportunity to share, but it's quick and concise. Our issue in our marriage for a long time was there's a reason I'm a podcaster because I have all of the words. I can talk for hours about any topic. And so I was overwhelming my husband. I had paragraphs and paragraphs of why I'm mad at you over what you said yesterday and how you did this situation to me. And he could retain about 3 to 4 sentences of it. And then we would both get flooded and the fight would continue. And then I'd be like, okay, well, I'm done sharing for 3 hours. Now it's your turn to talk. He didn't know how to find the words. It's not that he didn't want to talk to me, but one, he was probably flooded with fear that he's going to create more pain, more damage, or at that time we would have said like get in trouble, whatever that would look like. And he just didn't know how to communicate. So then I felt lonely in the experience. So we just had this constant tension between how we were arguing. Where now, when we start to feel tension rising, we both can get to this core emotion wheel and share what is happening with us very quickly and see each other. It's more of oh, okay, that's why you did this. Oh, I see that now. Okay, now we're just moving through our day. We don't have conflict very often. We have a conflict we went like a year and a half without having one at all, but we stubbed our toe and messed up after a while. We had one last week, but that was our first one in about 8 to 10 months.
Wow.
Because we get to this tool as quickly as possible. And I'm happy to model it for you as well, if you would like to see what it looks
Let's
like.
do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me think. Because I could just do a generic one. Like I feel shame that I've gained weight or something like that. But I would love to talk about something that may be specific to your audience even.
Yeah, for sure. Let's common scenario. Wife feels alone parenting and is frustrated because he's working all the time,
Yep.
and husband loves work, feels like, hey, this is how I provide for us.
Yep.
And when it's challenged, he feels disrespected because this is a big way that he contributes to the family, not the only way, but then he is met with frustration around this. It's a recurring topic that keeps coming up.
Yep.
She feels alone in the parenting. She feels like she's carrying the mental load. He feels like she doesn't understand all the work that he's putting in. He feels frustrated and overwhelmed by this, and it's a recurring point of conflict that keeps happening over and over again.
Yep. You're describing my life in 2020, very much so. And in fact, I would say that is still our main trigger topic that comes up. It used to be work and sex, and now it's just work. And that's what led to our conflict last week. So I can easily touch those emotions, because they are still very fresh. So if I was sharing this with my husband, and this will probably be close to the will I did with him last week, I feel anger. I feel like I feel anger because it feels like there's a double standard in our home that your time is more valuable than my time. And that, I want to have more time to work, but I don't feel like I'm given the space to do that. I feel shame. I feel so much shame in motherhood. I have 4 children who I absolutely love, but I feel shame that I don't have the capacity for them. They all need so much from me, and I can't show up for every single one of them the way that they need me to, and I feel shame for that. I feel guilt. I feel guilt for not acknowledging everything that you do for our family. I feel guilt for overlooking when you walk in the door at times, and for not giving you the joy that you bring to our home for how hard you work for us. I feel fear. I feel fear that I'm not going to find myself again. I am so deep in motherhood. I feel like I've lost the fun, energetic, easygoing woman that I used to be. And I feel fear that we're going to get to the end and raise these kids, and I'm not going to find that woman again, that we're going to disconnect over that. I feel lonely because motherhood is really hard. It is really, really lonely. These kids say my name 6,000 times a day, and it is constant, and I'm the only one that they are asking for, and that feels really lonely. I feel sad. I feel sad that we're both exhausted at the end of the day, so we don't have the capacity for each other that we want to have. I feel hurt. I feel hurt last week or yesterday when you said you were going to be home at 6, but it ended up being closer to 7:30 before you got home. I felt hurt that I didn't know that was going to happen. And I feel joy. I feel so much joy that in all of this chaos that we get to do this together, that like, I'm trying not to cry just saying this, that you're my partner. I said that to him last week, like that out of as hard as all of this is, I have joy that you're my partner in this life that we've built together. And I know we're going to make it through because we have tools to help us. So yeah, that's what it would look like.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And you did a great job. That is exactly what we do. We teach the other person. We call it the ooh, how to simply hold space for an experience. And that is I call it a nonverbal verbal cue. And so it's, oh, wow. Oh, I hear you. And that lets the other person's brain know I'm tuned in. I am listening to you. I'm not thinking about the call that I need to make tomorrow. I am present with you. But we don't defend, fix, correct, belittle someone else's experience. Because what I just shared with my husband and me doing that is data for him. It helps him to know exactly what's happening for me. It doesn't mean he's a bad person because he came home an hour and a half later than I thought he was going to. He's not bad. Something happened for him at work, and he's going to share with me whatever happened. That's still my experience. I still felt hurt. And so for him to hold space for that hurt, that is where we connect.
Oh, man, that's so good. That's so good. Okay, so number one, thank you for just your vulnerability. That's massive. I appreciate you being so honest about that. Brother, if you're listening to this right now, I want you to observe how she communicated, okay? And you see how she gave you multiple things, like as she framed it, data. Men are strategic, we're tactical. But communicating that way, I've got so many ways I could take that conversation. And I think that's so beautiful because this actually equips men to have more conversation. Notice that she didn't just go up to her husband and be like, "You just work so much, you don't care about us," and storm out, right? Because that's common. That's like, how dare you come home late? All you care about is work. You're the worst, and walk away. This is so open, and it's constructive, and it's filled with data that I can grab onto and ask questions about. Notice also that although me and Tera obviously aren't in a relationship, I didn't jump in. I was like, "Well, hey, let me tell you how to fix this." Well, or I didn't get defensive and say, "Well, you said you were lonely, but I was here 5 nights a week. What do you mean?" Or I didn't just start shoving strategies down her throat, or I didn't belittle her emotions by negating how she was feeling or getting defensive. I just listened and I observed and I acknowledged, right? And then after that, to say, "Hey, that sounds really tough. I'm sorry you're having that difficult. How can I support you through that?" That's language that's productive and that's helpful, right? So I love that we just did this exercise because I think it's going to help a man get a good glimpse into what healthy conflict looks like. So thank you, Tera.
Yeah, absolutely.
Quick pause here, brother, because if your marriage feels flat, the intimacy is rare, conversations are turning tense, or deep down, you're just worried that maybe you're slowly becoming roommates, I see you. So listen in for a moment. Most marriages don't drift because guys stop caring. They just run out of energy, ideas, and clarity. And that's exactly why I created the Spark Starter Kit, which is your romance on autopilot for an entire year. It's a done-for-you system that removes all the pressure and the guessing. All right, it's 365 pre-written text messages for every situation, so you never have to stress about what to say. Just copy, paste, personalize, and watch your eyes light up. It's 52 date night blueprints, one pre-planned date for every week of the year. So all you have to do is show up and be the hero. There's 100 conversation starters that are designed to engage her and turn up the heat. So you never have to worry about the conversation getting dull or boring. And it also includes the Romance Reset, which is a 3-part mini course, which is strategically designed to take you from bored roommates to passionate soulmates. So what's the result? More intimacy, less tension. More passion, less thinking. Be able to meet her every need without ever having to even think about it. So if you want to get the fire back in your marriage, grab the Spark Starter Kit. Okay, the link is in the show notes below. All right, now let's get back to the episode.
It has changed everything, like you just mentioned, for how we are able to communicate with each other. I will say for me, it has helped me to not be defensive. You asked earlier about my childhood. We were teasing recently, my husband and I, because I actually wanted to be a lawyer. I would be the best defense lawyer. Like, we just finished watching Landman, and that I'm like, I could have been her. And now I'm doing the complete opposite of that work, because I could defend myself to the ends back before we had these tools. And now I know how to hold space for his experience, honor, because I hurt him. I'm a person. We are two people throughout this life together. And there are times where I will do something that hurts him. And for me to be able to just acknowledge that and hold space for it and recognize that doesn't make me bad, it makes me human. I missed on that and ooh him through it instead of telling him how he's wrong for me to feel that way or think whatever or say whatever I said. That is the most connecting part. That is creating safety for each other. I feel one of the biggest issues that we have created in our society for men is we have taken away their safety to share. And they're taking away their safety to be vulnerable with someone. And so anytime a man is willing to be vulnerable as a spouse, as a wife, that is my cue to tune in, shut my mouth, ooh them, and be as safe as I can. Because I want a husband that will share with me. I want that can be vulnerable with me. And that is not unmasculine. My husband is very masculine. I think he is so hot. I'm so attracted to him. It's not feminine because he has emotion and he feels pain and he feels anger. And I want to be the one to know when he does.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. I often tell the story about the first time I opened up to my wife, and it was about 4 years into marriage. We were married for 4 years before I even actually talked to her about how I was feeling one day. Now my wife's a feeler. She's very intuitive. It's a beautiful thing. I came from I'll just say it was a challenging upbringing. Emotional awareness, intelligence was not a thing. Communicating your emotions was not a thing. My father wasn't around much growing up, so I didn't really have much of a model. And so I associated talking about how you feel with weakness. And so I thought it was my responsibility, my duty to lock it down, to own it, to whatever. And so my wife, as a feeler, would talk about things, talk about her day, talk about how she's feeling. I remember when we first got married, she would ask me the question, "How is your heart?" And I was like, "Babe, I don't know what to do with that question. Like, I don't have an answer for you. And even if I did, I wouldn't feel comfortable using that language. It feels so awkward in my mouth." And she just stopped asking it because I never answered her. Until about 4 years in, I had a really, really hard day. And I don't know, and I know I'm going to be on your show, in a bit. So I'm happy to share my story, transformation journey. But we were rock bottom, one fight away from divorce.
Wow.
It was a tough season. And so I remember reading about how to connect with your wife on an emotional level. And I remember thinking, okay, just tell her how you feel. Like, I was like coaching myself. And it took me about an hour to get the courage to just simply, and it's so funny, it sounds so silly now, but I just said, "Hey babe, I'm actually pretty anxious about tomorrow. I have this difficult conversation. I was in a new position of leadership. I got a promotion. And I was like, I just don't really feel like I deserve it. I don't really feel like I'm ready to step into this. I don't know how to have this coaching conversation tomorrow. And really what it was, I was struggling with imposter syndrome. I was struggling with my insecurity as a leader, because what I
Yeah.
understand now is I wasn't leading at home. I didn't know, I didn't have a model of leadership. And now I was thrust in this position of leadership and felt under equipped. Anyways, so I just shared for like maybe 3, 4 sentences.
Mm.
And Tira, I thought that she was going to look at me being like, you are so weak. How, why, what, She looked at me and she said, thank you so much. She's like, I have never felt more connected to you than what I have been in the last 10 minutes. It's amazing to know that you're not a robot. And she said, it also just makes me comfortable in your presence, because to know that you wrestle with something makes me more comfortable sharing how I feel, because I felt like I was living with this robot who struggled with nothing. And so I felt like it was difficult for me to share my feelings with you, because you wouldn't understand, because you don't talk about yours. That moment, Tira, was like a huge pivotal moment for me, a light bulb moment of light bulb moments, that where I was like, my goodness, I had it all wrong, you know? And you talk about attraction or connection. I mean, that was the journey up, out of that, being on the verge of ending our marriage. And it was a powerful moment. But it came from that moment of vulnerability, right? So
Yes.
I couldn't agree more. It's nothing to do with masculinity. I mean, I'm a pretty masculine guy. I know a lot of masculine men who talk about their feelings. There's not that's just not the connection. But I think culture says there is a strong correlation there. And if you're a strong man, if you're a man's man, then you, like I believed, you lock it down, right?
Yep.
You don't talk about your feelings. It's unfortunate. And that's the reason why you're here today, to have this conversation, because I think it's
Yeah.
important to help people understand, and I don't know, we talk a lot about this, it's part of our nature and nurture. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard of the term normative male alexithymia, but that term psychologists have coined. Alexithymia, translated from the Greek, means to be without words for emotion. And so normative male alexithymia means it's normal for males to be without words for emotion, right? So
Mm.
what that is explaining is that that's actually part of our wiring. That's part of the male expression. It's also nurture, because we've been raised in a culture that says, that's that false narrative. And so we get this combination where it makes it so difficult for us to talk about how we feel. And that's why it's so important to have the conversation. And when I learned about that, I was like, wow, helping men break down that barrier, because women, the vast majority of divorces we know in the US today, the main reason for the divorce is not sex, is not money, is not politics, it's not abuse, it's not cheating, it's emotional disconnection. I didn't feel like a priority. I didn't feel like my feelings mattered, right? So it's massive, so important. Tira, thank you just for your time today on the show. This has been powerful. I've had so many more questions I wanted to ask, but classic me as a podcaster, I talked too much and didn't get the time. But I loved having this conversation with you. And we're gonna throw that resource into the show notes. So if you're listening to this and this episode has resonated with you, please hit the link, download that resource, have that conversation with your wife. Spin back to that little role play me and Tara did, just to reference how that would go. And the last thing, Tira, is talk to us a little bit about where we can find you and how we can support you. Maybe we want to work with you. What does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love when men um, come to the connection codes and begin to use our tools because, again, like you've mentioned, we have done such an injustice to them in our society, and it is breaking down marriages. It is breaking down health. I mean, suicide rates for men are so much higher. And it's because we have not given them the safety and support that they need. Because
Mm-hmm.
again, these emotions are going to fire whether we want them to or not, but having the training and tools to know what to do with them. And so we offer that through the connection codes. Definitely download the core emotion wheel. We do have a podcast that you can listen to that gives a lot of the life training, but we have a course for couples to go through that teaches how to communicate with each other, teaches how to create safety for each other. One of our good friends actually just started going through it. He had an emotional affair last year. It came out, and they were on the brink of divorce. And just about 2 weeks ago, he called my husband and was like, "We watched the first module of this course, of our course, the connection codes. Because it is the most connected I've ever felt to my wife." He said, we went through the assignment. He goes, and then we had the hottest sex. Our minds connected, and then our bodies connected. And it was just like my favorite moment to hear a man feel seen, for a man to feel cherished and valued. And that's our goal, is to help that. So yes, go to connectioncodes.co, download the link, and listen to the podcast.
Tera, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show today. And I want to echo what you said. If you're listening to the show, brother, whatever you're doing, whether you're doing chores or you're driving or you're working out, hit the link. And if this is something, a step you want to take with your wife, what better way to model healthy leadership in your home is to invite her into this journey and to grow closer together as a couple and learn more about each other on an emotional level. So, Tera, thank you so much for being on the Dad Nation podcast today.
Thank you so much. I love being here.
Thank you for tuning into the Dad Nation podcast today. Listen, if today's conversation challenged you, if it encouraged you or helped you level up in any area of your life, would you do me a favor? Take 60 seconds to rate and review the show on whatever platform you're listening on. This helps us reach more men who need to hear this message. And if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the Dad Nation YouTube channel, where you're going to find full episodes, clips, and exclusive content designed to help you win at home just like you do at work. Remember, your family does not need perfection. They need your presence. Your leadership matters. So keep showing up, keep leveling up, and never forget, when the dad gets better, the whole family wins. We'll see you next time.